Hey guys, this is God of Politics and welcome to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. We have the mock gov elections coming up soon, the primary elections coming up, so make sure you join, fill out the form, and join the Discord, have some fun. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how Biden's VP pick affects the electoral map. Now, since I last made this video, his, picks for VP has narrowed down to a couple candidates. It's looking like it's most likely going to be a candidate of color, especially after many of the events have happened, the aftermath of the George Floyd protests and the Black Lives Matter protests. After that has occurred, it's looking more and more likely that Joe Biden's going to pick a woman of color as VP. Not guaranteed, but it looks like it could easily happen. And I'm going to be looking at how that will affect the electoral map. I've put up here the safe and likely states for either party here. We can actually add Maine's. Actually, I'll leave that there. So I'll add Maine at large to the Democratic column here. But this is the map with the likely and safe states filled out. Joe Biden at 218, Donald Trump at 125. And I'm going to be seeing how each candidate could affect this map. So first, you've got on this Wikipedia page, it says here, the vetting process. The Biden campaign was reported to have begun the vetting process of potential running mates in May 2020, which is expected to last several months. So these are the four people, and then that reported by CNN, and then the Associated Press also reported that these two people had advanced to further stages in the vetting process, along with the four names in the CNN article. So these six people are Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, who has come to more prominence as a result of the Black Lives Matter protests. Representatives Val Demmings, former prosecutor, now congresswoman from Florida. Senator Kamala Harris, former prosecutor, now senator from California, Senator Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts, formerly a Harvard professor, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico, a Latino woman, and then Susan Rice, former national security advisor and ambassador to the UN. She is also in the list. So all six people are women of color except for Elizabeth Warren. Michelle Lujan Grisham is Latina. These are some other people who are saying that they could be part of the process, but it's not looking like they're going to be. People thought maybe Gretchen Whitmer would be the person, maybe Amy Klobuchar, maybe Tammy Baldwin, and those could help in states like the Rust Belt, for example. I think Tammy Baldwin would help in Wisconsin, for example, but it's not looking like it's going to be some of these people here. So we're going to narrow it down to these six people, how these six people will affect the map here. First of all, with Keisha Lance Bottoms, before we get started with this, there's a perfect argument that vice presidential candidates do not help the map at all. If you look at the 2012 election, for example, you think of Paul Ryan. He didn't help win Wisconsin for Mitt Romney, and while Wisconsin was a bit more of a blue state, he didn't really have the effect that people thought he would. And while you could argue that maybe Tim Kaine helped Hillary Clinton in Virginia a little bit, I think the help that it gave was marginal. But it could have an impact. Like, for example, if we go to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms here, she could maybe bring Georgia into the tilled blue column just by increasing black turnout here. And this is basing it off of the data we have now. You think Joe Biden's in a very good position right now. He has the ability to win these states. He could win Florida. He could even win North Carolina due to increased black turnout in the urban areas. You put Texas in the lean column. You put, Arizona in the, teal blue column. You put the Rust Belt in the blue column just for the sake of this. Keisha Lance Bottom could hurt in some of these Rust Belt areas. Not necessarily hurt, but I guess not help in some of these areas. And so if we're just going to fill out some of these areas on how they would normally go, we look at this map here, we can see Keisha Lance Bottoms might be able to help in places like Georgia, increase, and the main thing in this with her would be increasing black turnout. That would help in North Carolina, that would help in Georgia, that would help a little bit in Florida, maybe in areas like Jacksonville, areas like that, and it could stretch into areas like Arizona, but it probably would not help as much in Ohio and Iowa. And the case for her would be if you want to energize the base, and Joe Biden believes he can win the Rust Belt on his own, which I think he is perfectly able to do. So that's Keisha Lance Bottoms. The next person is Val Demmings. Now, Val Demmings does have some baggage to her. She was the police chief of Orlando, and they had some, like, use of force violations, something like that, and that could hurt her, and, you know, it is something that should be investigated, and I believe they will investigate in the vetting process, but I do believe it would help Joe Biden win Florida. It would also, again, help in states like Georgia and North Carolina, and, you know, winning Georgia is not a small feat. Winning Georgia is going to be a thing that's going to be very difficult for Democrats to do. Can they do it? I believe they can do it, but it's going to be quite difficult to do. But, you know, in the scenario where we're thinking, how does it help? That's how it helps. It increases black turnout, most likely, in some of these areas. And there would be some, you know, people that are upset about the fact that, you know, she would... you know, people would be upset about the fact that she was a police chief, things like that. You know, but it would be a very similar scenario in terms of the map. Like, she would marginally help in some of these Sun Belt areas. Maybe you'd lose Georgia. Maybe you'd barely lose North Carolina, but maybe you'd win Florida. And, you know, maybe you'd narrowly lose Wisconsin or Arizona, too. And then in that scenario, you still win. You could even lose Pennsylvania in that scenario. But winning Florida is one of the things that the Joe Biden campaign, if they can do, would be very interesting. So I guess that's the biggest case for Val Demmings there. As for Kamala Harris, I wouldn't say Kamala Harris necessarily helps anywhere. I guess she could maybe help Nevada be pushed further into the likely margin. She could help Arizona be pushed into the Democrat column. You know, she could help black turnout in North Carolina. And in a good scenario, they win North Carolina. In a good scenario, they win Georgia. And the Rust Belt would not like her too much, I believe. I believe she's, you know, the elitist feel of being a California senator might be too much to overcome for her. But it is possible that she could win states like North Carolina due to increased turnout in the Winston-Salem and the Raleigh areas. You know, because that's an important thing to turn out those voters. And Florida could be an interesting place too, because again, you do have some black populations in areas like Jacksonville, and you have Latino populations in areas like Miami-Dade County, Broward County, those kinds of areas. So Kamala Harris wouldn't necessarily help anywhere across the board. She would probably, you know, not help anywhere, but she wouldn't hurt either, and that's another thing that would be quite interesting. Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren's actually quite an interesting pick, because if we go down further here, we can see, you know, some opinion polling, and she virtually wins in almost all of the opinion polls here. You know, and that's basically because of the progressive base of the party that you have. You know, they didn't get Bernie Sanders, and you know Joe Biden's going to pick a woman, so you might as well say Elizabeth Warren in these polls. So, you know, it's a complete possibility that she'll be the nominee. It would cause some, I guess, some trouble for Joe Biden when you have two white people on the ticket. It could hurt Joe Biden just a little bit. You know, it depends how big of an issue these race protests are and things like that. But, you know, Elizabeth Warren, you know, would probably, I guess you could say, would make New Hampshire maybe better for the Democrats. She'd probably hurt in areas like Arizona, for example. She'd hurt in areas like Georgia. She'd hurt in areas like North Carolina. You know, she may even put Georgia in the lean column. She might hurt in Florida. You know, I think Joe Biden would still be able to win the Rust Belt, because I think he can win it on his own without the help of a VP pick and their specialties and, you know, wherever they're from. But it is going to be quite tough for Elizabeth Warren to win, you know, the support of many people, because of the fact that she's kind of similar to Kamala Harris in that she has an elitist feel. She is quite far to the left. You know, Joe Biden says you want someone that agrees with him on the issues. Elizabeth Warren agrees with him on some of the issues, but, you know, she's like a sort of Medicare for all Democrat. She's a sort of Green New Deal person, things like that. And so I don't think Joe Biden is going to pick her. I mean, obviously she's the people that most people want, but that's mainly because of the progressive base of the party, which they probably will turn out regardless, but, you know, it's hard to tell. But that would be the only reason I pick Elizabeth Warren, if you want to help turn out the progressive base of the party. The next person is Michelle Lujan Grisham, who I believe would push New Mexico into the safe column just because she's from there, similar to how Gary Johnson got a lot of the vote. It'd probably push Colorado in the safe column. I think Arizona would go blue, almost in the lean column, to be honest. I think Texas could get very close, not necessarily the tilt margin, but definitely the lean margin. You know, she could help in Florida. I think she could help flip Florida. She is quite a dark horse due to the fact that she's not very well known. She wouldn't be that great in terms of getting black turnout, but Latino turnout is a lot lower than black turnout anyway. If you look at black turnout, it went down from 65% in 2012 to 59% in 2016. If you want to look at the 2016 results, you can also see that Hispanic turnout is like 48 to 50%, so that's really low. Michelle Lujan Grisham, I think, would help bring that up a little bit. She's not very well known, but Joe Biden did have, in the primaries at least, he did have a weakness amongst Latino voters. He didn't do very well in Nevada. He didn't do very well in Colorado. He didn't do that great in Arizona, especially with Latinos. So that would help in that area, solidify that area. And again, I believe Joe Biden, and Joe Biden probably believes that he can win the Rust Belt on his own. He can win that Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin area. And, if you can just add Arizona to the list, add Florida to the list, solidify Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado, which wouldn't necessarily be solidified with another VP candidate. Michelle Lujan Grisham is actually a candidate that I think, thinking about it more and more, would not be too bad of a candidate, because you don't necessarily want someone who's the most well-known candidate in some scenarios. That's why Kamala Harris does have some flaws to her, because people do know her, but that means people know the bad things about her and things like that. And then the final person here is Susan Rice. I actually believe Susan Rice would not be too bad of a candidate, especially if you're assuming that Joe Biden is not going to run again in 2024. Now, in the 2024 election, Joe Biden's going to be 82 by then. I doubt he's going to run again. Susan Rice, out of those 6 candidates, would probably be the most suited to run a general election campaign, especially based on foreign policy, things like that. She'd be able to deal with those leaders, whereas some of these other people, some of them governors, some of them senators, some of them even mayors wouldn't be able to do. Like, you think Keisha Lance Bottoms doesn't really have the experience. Val Demmings may not have the experience foreign policy-wise. Kamala Harris may, but Michelle Lujan Grisham doesn't either, whereas Susan Rice does have that foreign policy experience. She does have a closer relationship to Biden. They served in the Obama administration together, which can mean more than you may think in terms of Joe Biden picking her. While she is from Maine, that's technically her home state. I think that's just where she lives. I don't think she'd necessarily help anywhere, to be honest. Maybe she'd help win North Carolina, to be honest. We're really exaggerating the effect that the VP picks may have. Again, she's not that well known of a person either. She was National Security Advisor, and she was Ambassador to the UN. That could help in different scenarios, but I do think that Susan Rice would be quite a good pick, to be honest. She's not too well known. She'd be ready to be vice president, ready to be president, to be honest. And, while a lot of people may not like her, she's a neoliberal, things like that. She'd be in favor of dealing with things like she likes NATO, things like that, may be unpopular to some people. She may not be too popular in the Rust Belt or the Sun Belt, but she'd be quite a good pick, to be honest. If we're looking at this scenario here, there's a lot of scenarios for Joe Biden to win. He can lose Florida and Arizona, and even lose North Carolina, and he can still win. It's all just coming down to the Rust Belt. If Joe Biden believes he can win the Rust Belt on his own, it doesn't really matter what VP he picks. He could pick a VP from the Rust Belt if he wanted to, but I believe he probably believes too. You can win the Rust Belt on your own. So that's how I think that these 6 main the VP is probably going to be one of these people. If I had to put my bet on it, it'd be Kamala Harris or Val Demmings or Susan Rice. I think Kamala Harris first, Val Demmings second, Susan Rice third. I don't think it's going to be Keisha Lance Bottoms. I don't think it's going to be Michelle Lujan Grisham. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. I think the 2 most weak people would be Keisha Lance Bottoms and Elizabeth Warren, and the 2 strongest people would be Susan Rice and Val Demmings, or maybe Michelle Lujan Grisham. There's a lot of pros and cons to each candidate, but I'll talk a bit more about it when he picks them in the upcoming months before he picks them, because it could be a month and a half before he actually picks his VP. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. Make sure you join the mock-up that is there as well. So again, thank you all for watching, guys, and I will see you guys later.